My name is Silvester Henderson, and I am the CEO of Professor for Life Incorporated, and I'm also a professor of music at Los Medanos College. I am so honored this afternoon, or this early morning, I should say, to interview a very smart young scholar by the name of Dr. Khalid White, who is a full professor of African American Studies at San Jose City College. So I want to say welcome, Dr. White.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I am so grateful. I had a chance to meet Dr. White. We've known each other now, I think maybe 7 to 8 years or something like that. And I think we may have met through the A2 Men conference. So I don't forgot exactly where it was, because we've known each other a pretty long time now. And I've just grown to really admire Dr. White and his family. I'm going to ask Dr. White if you would introduce yourself to our digital media academic world.
Yes, indeed. And again, thank you for having me. I'm Khalid White. As far as my professional title goes, I'm professor of African American Studies and Ethnic Studies at San Jose City College. I am also the one of the co-founders of the Pipelines to Possibilities program. That is a internship program that connects the HBCUs, our historically Black colleges and universities, with our California community college system in terms of providing internship opportunities with an idea of creating a pipeline for employment in our system. So I'm one of the co-founders of the P2P program, which is Pipelines to Possibilities. I'm also the founder of the Black Empower multimedia company, and we focus on books, film, fashion, music that empowers the Black race throughout the diaspora. But in addition to that, you know, I am a father, a husband. I love to write. I think I'm a people person sometimes. And on top of that, man, I will say this: I'm just a child of God, and I appreciate this opportunity of being here this morning.
That's wonderful. Can you tell us, Dr. White, a little more about your academic training for our digital world, and let them know where you received your bachelor's, your master's, your doctorate?
Well, first and foremost, I'm definitely a proud alum of Morehouse College, which is the nation's only all-male, historically Black college university. So that's where I got my undergraduate degree in sociology. And I will put a caveat there and say, I'm so happy I made the decision to go to an HBCU, because it provided the academic, intellectual, and interpersonal foundation for me to be able to go on and pursue graduate studies, right? So I have a graduate degree, master's degree from Harvard School of Education in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and as well as a joint doctorate degree from UC Davis, University of California, Davis, and also from Sonoma State University in higher ed leadership. And in addition to that, I have a certificate of achievement a certificate of online proficiency in teaching online from Merit College, a community college in California. So I'm happy to say that I've kind of gone through all different, aspects and ranks of higher education, from HBCU to Ivy League to UC to CSU to community college. And also, again, I teach at the community college. So, I have four college degrees and a certificate. It's not something that I like to brag on, but it is actually some things that I was able to accomplish as a younger man. And I bring all those experiences with me to, my classrooms and that type of thing.
And can you describe your work and obligations as a full professor at San Jose City College, and what class do you teach?
I teach, and I've been teaching all of our African American Studies classes. I also teach some general ethnic studies classes. So things like African American culture, African American history, brand new class that I created, the African American male experience, African American family, African American cinema. In addition to, again, intro to ethnic studies, intro to social justice, and those types of things. Also, I do some sociology, so intro to sociology, social problems, and also just regular U.S. history. So I have a kind of a full range, run a full gamut of different courses that I do teach. But my primary obligation and function is African American Studies. So it's the teaching and delivery of those in class and also online services, the grading. But really, it's the relationship building. That's the underlying and oftentimes unseen but very crucial job function is the relationship building and the self-esteem building and the direction, positioning, almost like a position coach in football or a position coach in sports, to give young adults and even some people who happen to be older than me just some direction and some guidance, but also just to build those relationships and tell a person, hey, you know what, you are intelligent, you can do, you will do, I'm looking forward to you doing, and I want to be your, not only your coach, but also your cheerleader in doing so. So it's a lot of investing on a personal level with students.
Now, at San Jose City College, do you happen to know the percentage of African American students? Not that I'm not interested in all students, but as an African American educator, I am most concerned about helping underrepresented African American kids really gain a positive education. Do you have many Black male students or Black female students in your courses?
Well, in my courses, yes. Across the campuses, no. Right? So, across the campus, no. And I say that kind of almost, it's personally troubling to me. Over the 15 years that I've been on that campus, I've seen the Black population decline from at 1.89% when I first got there to now probably something like 3% in terms of the total campus population. But I get and continue to get a lot of Black students in my courses and continue to maintain relationships with a lot of these Black students that I have over the years, male and female. We continue to kind of email each other, check in, sometimes with, text each other, go out to lunch, all those different types of things. Very similar to the relationships that you built with other scholars and professors across the globe. And so, although we don't have, the hugest numbers in terms of African American representation, I don't take my job as one of the few Black professors on campus lightly. And I really, again, try to invest in young people and their self-esteem, self-image, and their self-direction,
Wow. Can you describe your work as it relates to your district? How does your work impact your district within the world of higher education? And then if you could also touch on the fact, I know that you've also worked as a lecture professor for San Jose State University. Kind of tell me a little bit about that as well.
Well, okay. One of the things for my district is relationship building across the Silicon Valley and across, Santa Clara County. So not only am I on campus and teaching, but I also make it a point to make relationships with some of the organizations and some of the service providers in the area. That way, we can connect students to the services that they may need that are outside of the campus. So that's one of the ways in which, I've been able to support the district. The district is kind of, it's interesting, and I don't want to talk too negatively, but my complete experience district-wide hasn't always been the greatest, because I don't think that there is a value, a evaluation, or they don't value African-American students and staff and faculty as a priority, because again, we're small in number, we're almost out of sight, out of mind. So, as far as our district is concerned, I bring some of the voice of the voiceless or the unheard or the overlooked. I think that's also something that I do. And that relationship and those relationship building opportunities help me to be able to go over to San Jose State University and be, an associate lecturer there in their African American Studies department for about 3 to 4 years. And so just, again, relationship building, being able to teach those students, being able to have some of my students who I had at San Jose City College and see them transfer over to San Jose State and then have them again, down the line. And so it was a beautiful thing. It was a great experience. I was able to co-teach with one of the greatest professors out there, Dr. Stephen Milner, who was since retired, but he had a 45-year career or so at San Jose State University. He's been teaching longer than I've been alive. And teaching, he's an institution within himself. So I had a chance to co-teach with him for several years, and it's almost like, I liken it to if you are a rookie player and you get drafted onto playing with a Kobe Bryant or playing with a Shaquille O'Neal or a Stephen Curry, right? It's like you get a chance to be with one of the greatest early in your career, and so that really helped prepare me and propel me, and give me some tools just by seeing how he prepared as a professional.
Did you find that working at the State University had less challenges for males of color, or particularly, or was it pretty much the same? Because I want to sort of mirror what you said in terms of just not African American studies, with African American professors throughout the system. There's a website that just slipped my mind that deals with the data for professors of color nationwide. And I think for African American males in the tenure positions or spots, I don't think we make up 3% nationwide across the whole country in the classroom. So African American male professors are almost sort of non-existent.
Right. An endangered species, if you will, right? So the challenges between students, and particularly male students of color, Black males in specific, at the community college versus at the four-year schools, I found it to be similar issues, similar challenges, similar areas of need, right? So I didn't find that there was too much of a difference, and I was dealing primarily with, first year, second year undergrad. So it's really the same population in a lot of senses between first year, second year at a university, first year, second year at a community college.
That's right.
It's a lot of the same. But in terms of the need for and the lack of Black males in the classroom, either K-12 and then also in higher ed, it's at kind of epidemic crisis level. And one of the reasons why myself and my co-founders created Pipelines to Possibilities is to change who's in these classrooms in California, in higher ed classroom. We are specifically, intentionally focused on creating a pipeline for more professors of color. And whether they're male or female, we can't dictate that, but we are definitely looking for bringing in, underrepresented groups and Black professors, Afro-Latino professors, etc., through our pipeline. So, it's a definite area of need, and that's one of the reasons why I take my job so seriously and take my role so seriously, is because I may be, in a lot of cases, I am the only Black male teacher that these students will have. So that's not something that I take lightly. I really relish that position, and I really value it. And I want students to have a positive exchange. For the most part, we do, but I want it to be, hey man, I had a professor that was different and unique from all my other professors, not just physically on the surface, but also the things that he helped me to kind of understand about myself and about the subject matter and things of that sort.
Wow. This is what you just said is an emotional conversation for me, because for many, many years, many decades, I happen to be probably old enough to be your pops. And, I've heard this conversation so much about the system not being able to hire Black higher education professionals. And to me, it's so simple. I always say this simply. If you want to hire more people of color, stop hiring everybody white. Just as, it doesn't, but what the system do is they cloud the issue with all of these updates of EEO plans and all that stuff doesn't matter, because higher education is known for having a whole closet full of documents that nobody even read, and they don't mean anything. Basically, people continue to hire who look like them. But you know what? We have to get on that topic at another point, because that could take up hours. Listen, let me ask you a question. How, as an African American studies professor and ethnic studies, how do you interact, or do you interact at all with the Department of Music, Film, and Art at your college?
Directly and indirectly, yes. In terms of music, film, and art, we have collaborated in those particular ways, but also music, film, and art are things that I cover in my classes as well. So if I want to get an expert on the subject matter, I'll bring in a Black expert in music, film, and art. If I want to collaborate across, the disciplines, then perhaps we will do that. But music, film, and art, particularly with African American culture, is something that my campus doesn't have representation in those areas. So I take it upon myself to kind of bring in some experts. And those are also things that I'm involved in myself. So I might even bring some stuff that I've done. If not, I'll bring in things that I know people who do music, film, and art from the Black perspective can offer. So on my campus, there's not a whole lot of interface, but there has been some over the years, yes.
Now, what about in terms of activism? What sort of activities do you involve yourself in as sort of, because I kind of see you as a social activist, just not for Black males, but for social causes in general. Mm-hmm. And what sort of activist work have you done in Silicon Valley, or not Silicon Valley, but just in the San Francisco General Bay Area?
Well, I think my activism work starts off as a person who, connected with the NAACPs and that type of thing, right? So, whether we're talking about the NAACP in the East Bay or now in the South Bay where I work, that has been some of the platforms and some of the people that kind of gave me a foot in the door in terms of activism, right? From a traditional sense. But for me, my activism now is in the classroom, but also in terms of being an amplifier for Black voices outside of the classroom. So the way that I engage in activism might be through protests and that type of thing, yes. It might be through social justice movement and protests and some of your traditional forms and facets. Whether it was as a teen getting involved in the Million Man March, or a younger man, the Million Man March, or getting involved in the Million Students March and things of that sort, to now as a more seasoned guy. I don't want to say old, but I'm climbing the ladder a little bit. Now, my activism comes through the creation of books and film which amplify Black causes, Black voices, and have a component of social justice built into them, changing the narrative about Black men and Black fathers in specific, changing the narrative about allyship with the Black LGBTQ population, because we all Black at the end of the day, changing the narrative about the experiences that Black students, Black staff, and Black faculty go through in higher ed. So things like that, addressing the literacy gap with early education. Like, those are some of the ways that I get involved in activism and social justice work now. And it's really through, again, the creation of books and film in ways of changing narratives and amplifying the voices of Black people.
Now, do you find that you've had an opportunity, or have you had an opportunity to engage with any other community colleges and speak about your philosophies and your beliefs as well?
Definitely. Community colleges and some four universities. Because of the work that I do outside the classroom, again, in with my books and with my films and things like that. I've touched a lot of different community colleges, and then consulting work. They bring me in because, oh, I heard about you doing X, Y, and Z. Oh, I heard that you led A, B, and C. So, I do some consulting work for other colleges, some guest speaking, things of that sort. But primarily it's the creation of stories and storytelling, which comes from the African tradition, right? It came over with us. So you tell stories through music. I tell story through books and through film, and those are ways that we can create a social justice lane, a narrative, a counter narrative, which is part of African American studies and the ethnic studies tradition. Just telling the story from our perspective. It gives me the opportunity to collaborate with a lot of colleges and universities now, and that's something that I really enjoy. To go to these various places. As a matter of fact, I'm in Oregon right now, getting ready to do some engagement with a college here in Oregon, who heard about some of the work that I did or am doing and brought me out here to speak to them. So, long story short, yes, I do and will continue to and love to collaborate with other colleges, campuses, universities, etc.
My prayer is that your message will not only continue to reach California and this state, but be heard internationally as well. I think you're such brilliant, and that your message of hope, promise, and effective change will help influence the lives of thousands. Tell me, who influenced you the most to go into higher education?
Ooh, that's a good question. Who was? I gotta choose one person.
No, you can choose.
Hey, you know what? I think it was innate in the bloodstream on both my mother's side and my father's side. We have people who have been educators for years, and some in higher education, but most in the K-12 system. So, like, both of my grandmothers were educators. My mom was early education, preschool and kindergarten. Worked in programs like that, as well as my dad did. So, I can say those are some influences. But to be quite honest with you, as I mentioned, I went to a historically black college, Morehouse College, which is an all-male school, but across the street is Spelman, which is the all-female school, right? And as like maybe a sophomore, junior, somewhere like that, my buddies put me on to this tutoring program, and we tutored kids after school who were in the second and third grade. But one of the ways that they hooked me was that, hey, it's mostly Spelman women who are running this program. Come over here. It's only 3-4 guys and it's 30 women. So, I took them up on that offer. And yes, those numeric odds were like that, but I enjoyed the experience working with those kids. It wasn't just all flirting. We also definitely put in work with those young kids. And that hands-on experience led me to saying, hey, I like this. I want to go into education. I want to do some things with kids and with young people. And again, my aunties, my grandmothers, were educators. And as a matter of fact, my family that comes from the South, most of them went to historically black colleges and universities. Matter of fact, all of them went to historically black colleges, the Gramblins, the Southerns, the Dillards, because, those were the only colleges they could go to. And and to be a teacher in the Deep South was a highly respected position. So in my family, there's a lot of educators and there's a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of people who, the first in their town to have a cafe, the first in their town to have, a restaurant and things of that sort, right? So again, that's all innate in my bloodstream, and I'm fortunate to have that in the bloodline. And so I think those were some influences for me, which led me later on to pursuing teaching in higher education. I started off in K-12.
Wow. That sounds like a great family tradition and heritage.
It is.
Yeah. Could you tell our digital audience about some of your most significant pedagogical accomplishments? Not just research, because I look at your research kind of as, your books and your films, and even though I'm sure you've done other research, but what are some of your pedagogical accomplishments? What are some of the strategies that you use for teaching students of color that many do not?
Well, I will give a couple. I don't want to give all my secrets away, but I will give some things that, one, I give a couple. It's not a secret. This actually should be taken and passed on. For one, you have to know people's names. You can't say you or number 37 or 100. You have to learn and call people by name, for one, to let them know that you see them as people, as who they are, as individuals. Now, not only you have to know names, but you have to know the proper pronouns too. But you have to start, if you're not already doing that, the simplest thing you can do is understand a person's name and how to pronounce it. So we have a number of Vietnamese students, a number of Latino students in my class, in my campus, a number of African-American students, and some have some very unique and colorful names, just like my own name, Khalid. It's not, I don't have a name like Michael or Ronald or something like that, right? So when a person knows your name, it can say, hey, William, hey, Trong, hey, Fernando, I see you and I want to speak with you after class, or whatever the case may be. Understanding the person's name and knowing that I see you as an individual will help tremendously. Another thing that I do, and a lot of people may not necessarily take this approach, but the idea of office hours becomes super immensely important, in my opinion, in building relationship. So instead of saying, my office is open from 9 to 10 on Tuesdays, nobody's going to come and visit you on their own unless there's a dire emergency. So what I tend to do, and what I've been doing over the last couple of years pedagogically that has helped, is to, instead of having instruction, we will take a whole week, 2, 3, 4 days, and I meet with everybody individually on my roster. So I give you 10 to 15 minutes or however much you think that you need or whatever. I give everybody that same opportunity to let's connect as people. Come to my office. We can strip away all the anxiety of I don't want to speak in front of people. I don't want to, we just humanize the relationship and the relationship building. So I might do that 2 times a semester. And pedagogically, I'm not sure, what that would fall under in terms of theory or what have you, but I get students all the time who tell me, thank you for meeting with me in person like that. It made a lot of sense to me. It helped me out. It really helped my anxiety in terms of meeting with my professors because it humanizes me. It takes the power dynamic and differential down when it's just me and you talking, like just people. So I get a chance to learn about if you have kids or not, are you working or not, or, what are some of the challenges you're going through? What are some of the good things that are going on? And so I continue to do that every semester. So again, names and identifying people by name, and then also being able to build those relationships. And that goes a long way for students of color because a lot of times they feel as though they don't belong or they're not seen, they're not visible. Here's a way to make them visible and make them feel a part of the solution.
Now I feel that sounds like a cultural, ethnic, and academic accomplishment because I use all 3 of those because it affirms the culture, it encourages the race as a African American to another student of color, and then it also helps the students to focus their ideas and to express their thoughts, fears, or challenges. Yep. So that is an accomplishment. What do you consider your best creative work?
Dang.
Let's rephrase it. What would you consider one of your best creative works and why?
I think my most recent research project is my best creative work because it's the most recent. It's the one that you see these pyramids in the background.
Yes.
The foundation was set some years ago, and now at the top of this pyramid is my latest work, and that's the one that's most seen, most visible, the one that benefited from the foundation that was built. My latest research and most creative work is called The Black Voices from the Ivory Tower. It centers the experience and expertise of Black faculty, Black staff, Black scholar practitioners in terms of what we've gone through over the last couple of years coming out of the pandemic, George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, etc., but also how it gives us an opportunity to voice to campuses. These are the ways that you can advance equity, inclusion, and belonging from the Black perspective. So it involves student voices, and it also involves scholar practitioner voices. Again, the Black voices from the Ivory Tower. It's a book, it's a film, and it's going to have the most impact in terms of the things that I've done in higher ed. I feel that wholeheartedly. And it's personal to me. You know, I had a friend of mine who was killed by the police in 2018. And as I understand it now, I suffered some vicarious trauma as a result of learning about his death and being involved in some of the subsequent protests and that type of thing with the DA, and voicing my opinion on how great of a person he was or what type of person he was. Anyway, long story short, all the officers involved got acquitted. That was in 2018. Wow. Here comes 2020. And we see the same type of scenario happen with George Floyd. And so it re-traumatized me to some degree, and it traumatized the rest of the world to see this man choked out on, TV like he was. The whole world felt that. And so as a result, I want to try to capture the experiences of Black people, but the experiences of Black educators, because at the same time we saw that, and that trauma hit us, we still had to go back into our classrooms or into our counseling spaces or back into our classified professional world and act on Monday like everything was okay in a lot of cases. And so we've been dealing with that vicarious trauma and trying to address that and alleviate that. And I wanted to bring voice to that because it was very impactful for a lot of us. Some of us are still traumatized by it. But institutional discrimination will tell you to get over it. Anti-Blackness on our campuses will tell you, well, hey, that was 2020, it's 2023. Why are you still complaining about it? Get over it, get past it, get on with it. And as a matter of fact, go grade those papers and go teach those classes and act like that.
Exactly.
So that is, I think, that's what I think is going to have the most impact. It's going to be my most creative work up to this point. And we'll see what happens after this, but I'm confident that that's going to be the most creative stuff is, again, Black voices from the Ivory Tower.
Now, tell me, what are some of the challenges that you face as a Black man of color in academia yourself?
Man,
you don't a lot of them. You don't have to go into.
I'm not going to ever go into
that because you know what? I done had a whole list.
Well, I mean, you could have everything from a person calling the campus police on you because they don't believe that you are, an employee there. You can have that experience. I've had that happen. You could have incidences of, racial microaggressions and even your colleagues and other staff members saying, well, hey, I thought all the Black guys on the campus were friends with each other and speak that Black talk to them, and those types of things, right? They'll say stuff like that. Or I've had some people say, wow, this is great. Did you really write that? Like they'll say things like that. Or I've had people ask me, hey, well, did you grow up with your father? Like things like that. I'm not sure that you would say that to somebody who's white. You know what I mean? Like that type of thing, right? And I've had people say, hey, what's up, bro? Now, would you say that to a white colleague, or you say that to me because you're trying to connect? So I've had a range of things, and I got into higher education professionally at like 24. So 24, 25, somewhere in there. So, I started off as kind of a younger guy. And so you have age, you have race, you have all these stereotypes, and then, you still have internalized racism by other Black people who might be threatened by you or might feel challenged by you. So I've had a range of different racialized experiences on these higher education campuses as a student and then also as a professional. And I'm thinking the next thing that I'm going to come out with, I was trying to play around with the title, another book, I'm Not Racist, I Have a Black Friend. That's going to be I can't be racist, I have a black friend. Something like that. That's going to be my next one. It's going to talk about all these different experiences.
Wow. You know, just hearing you talk reminds me of a situation that happened. God, I've had so many. I've ended up in the paper unfairly. I've been labeled unfairly. I've been called difficult to get along with because I speak my truth. But I recall this is so weird to me once. When I was the associate professor at UC Berkeley for the 20 years I was there, I took a group of students up to the University of Oregon, and we did a magnificent performance in their concert hall. And in the line, it was primarily all Caucasian people that attended the event. Close to, I think, quite at 3,000. Was in a massive event. And I remember this lady in particular, she grabbed my head, and I had to laugh so that I wouldn't be angry. She said, you dark people are so talented. She said, I was sitting down talking to my friend, and I just want to ask you a question. So I said, yes, ma'am. She said, now I'm a professor at UC Berkeley. And she said, you know what? I told her, you don't read music, do you? You know what I told her? I said, no, ma'am, I don't. I said, I really don't. I just look at the characters on the page because they look beautiful to me. I told her, you know what? But you look beautiful to me. You just, ma'am, just move on the conversation. I say that to say that as a man who is becoming aged, I have learned that there are so many levels of racism that are deeply rooted in American culture that I won't be around when it changes. It continues to seem to perpetuate themselves, and they never tend to go away. It seems as though all topics receive great value instead of the topics of black men. Mm-hmm. You know, you have the LGBTQ queer topic that becomes a major topic now. Not to say there's not any black folks that are gay or queer. You have women in higher education. It seems to be of great concern now. You have Latinos underrepresented, Pacific Asian Islanders underrepresented. But when it comes to black men, unless a black guy sounds in their mind what a white guy sounds like, which I'm still trying to figure out. What does the black man sound like? What does the white guy sound like? You know, that always people only seem to be comfortable when the black man is shackled and put in jail. Yeah. And so as an aged man, and I'll be 63 this year, this has been an experience that I have learned. I've come to the point where I'm able to talk about the issues without getting upset anymore. Because I realize that I have to protect my health as I talk about these issues. But in all the years I've been in higher education, and it's been massive, way over 4 decades, nothing has changed. Nothing has changed at all. We've had different experiences, different campuses, different conversations, but the percentages have not changed. It was when I worked with the State Academic Senate, I had the opportunity to, Dr. White, attend. There was a session that was held at the state capitol in Sacramento, that's what it was. And they were talking about the money that the systems had invested for employing diverse faculty. Mm-hmm. I think in 50 years, the community college has not grown 5%, 6%. Isn't it crazy? 50 years. 50 plus years. UC Berkeley had only improved 2 or 3%, and the The CSU, I believe, had their numbers were close to the community college. But you're talking about trillions of dollars, and everyone is still claiming, oh, we need to update the EEO plan. It has nothing to do with updating the EEO plan, changing the questions. All of that is simple. It is simple. If you want to hire more people of color, stop hiring so many white folk. It's just that simple. Because you know what? Everybody always gets back on, well, it's the law. You can't discriminate. No, I'm not supporting discrimination, but I am encouraging common sense. So it's just really sad to see the issues that really face men of color in academia. But having said that, what are some of the things that you encourage? How are some of the ways that you encourage primarily men of color to improve their opportunities within higher education? What is one or two or three strategies that you've employed that makes it so that men of color in the system have greater outcomes? Pay it forward.
No, that's a great question. And some of these I'm still learning to do myself. I think one of them is creating and developing a support system and a network for yourself. And that can be in the system, and also should also be some people outside of the system, because you have to have a sounding board or some people that you can relate with and vibe with and get some wise counsel from, because this system, and again, it's a system, it is going to wear on you and wear you down because just of the history of systems and what they do to Black people and Black men in specific, right? So provide and build your network and your base of support. I think also in the system too, you have to network. In addition to creating a support system, network with other men or women that you feel have some things unique about them and some qualities that you might admire, some things that you want to try to add to your own, arsenal, if you will. I would say do some of that networking, because there really are some great Black scholar practitioners in our system, up and down the state. There's some brilliant-minded men and women in our system that, come with their own lenses, come with their own ideas, come with their own experiences, and we can learn from each other. So again, network with some of the people that you feel are doing some great things. And then lastly, and this is what I had to learn through, again, the experience that I mentioned to you about my friend dying in 2018, and then me feeling trauma on the job. I was affected on my job as a result of his death. I was affected at home. It just really bothered me. You know what I mean? His death did. But I would say seek some mental health support, whether that's counseling or therapy, whether that's meditation, whether that is a support group, whether that is journaling, whether that is finding a new hobby to get some of that off your shoulders and off your mind, whether that's jogging, whatever it is for you. You have to find some outlet and some way of positive way of releasing some of these anger and tension and some of those microaggressions and things like that you'll be exposed to, because it leads to a level of toxicity in the mind, in the emotions, in the body. And, it just wears on us in some ways that it doesn't wear on white people or Asians or Latinos. It affects us in some ways that is unique to us. And that's why Black men have the shortest life expectancy in the world, in America for sure, and largely in the world. It's because of a lot of this pressure and stress that we hang on to, that we deal with silently or on our own. And it's not good. It's not healthy. It's not productive. So those are three things that I would say.
Wow.
Creative network, find a way to release some of this anxiety, some of this anger, some of this stress, in some positive ways.
I appreciate you sharing those gems with our digital world. Thank you. You know what? We're going to come to our last question. Do you have any ideas you want to share, or anything else you want to communicate about just your philosophies or on higher education? I'm so grateful and honored that you allowed me to take the time to just for you to share your perspective. One of the reasons I started this sort of like broadcast was because one of the things I realized was that academics never have a space to verbalize their truth. You know, because you're in the meeting at work, you can't necessarily real verbalize your truth. So everybody lie. At work, nobody tells the truth. You know, we all get on the phone and talk our truth there, but nobody really hears it. So I'm the guy that people don't like a lot of times because I always tell my truth. But most people in academia, there's a room of 50 people, and someone will ask you a principle, and people got PhDs, master's degrees, and all these degrees, and they can't tell the truth. Nobody wants to tell the truth because when you tell the truth, you're looked upon as a troublemaker.
Yeah.
It's
come out the hard way.
Growth. You never get no growth in Pacific areas because everybody lies. Because it's like, that's not the culture thing to do. You don't say that. But in any regard, I started this, like I said, sort of YouTube broadcast because I wanted educators, primarily men and women of color, to be able to speak their truth freely. And so from that perspective, are there any thoughts or ideas you would like to finally communicate?
Yeah. Well, firstly, thank you again for the opportunity to come on here and be truthful with you, and to speak to not only yourself but your audience about just the experiences that I've had and some of the things that I've seen. Again, Black Voices from the Ivory Tower is a collective truth of Black scholar practitioners and students about the things that we've gone through, right? But some things that I could just part with, some parting words in addition to that is, this is a calling, this is a ministry. Education is to be a teacher. And so I feel compelled to really let people know that if it's not in your heart, don't do it. Don't get into this profession. Go do something else. Go work at Safeway or go be the general manager at Starbucks or whatever the case may be. To be an educator, an effective educator, it really has to come from the heart first, because you can theorize and conceptualize and be a researcher and all that type of stuff, but to be a scholar practitioner, it really starts here, in my personal opinion. You have to have it in your heart to want to help and be in the helping profession, because this is a profession that there's not a whole lot of thank yous. There's not a lot of instant gratification. There is planting seeds that may grow and sprout 10 years down the line. You don't get paid extremely well. And Silicon Valley, we don't make Silicon Valley money. I put it to you like that. So you have to really want to do it from your heart. And so if it's not in your heart, don't get into the education profession. Or if it started off in your heart and now it's no longer, your heart's not in it, get out. Find something else to do. You've been in it 40 plus years because it's in your heart. And you get to teach a subject that you love. You love music and you love relating with people that way. I get to teach a subject matter, African American studies, that is near and dear to my heart, that I love and that I can continue to kind of grow with. So that's one of the things I would like to leave as a parting word. Follow your heart, particularly if you're trying to get into education, because there's so many other things you could do if you're not fully invested in this work. Go do something else.
Well, Dr. White, from my heart to your heart, I love you dearly. I admire and love your wife and your beautiful children, and I wish you and your family nothing but a productive summer. I am sure that where you're at in Oregon, they're going to be blessed by your wisdom. Thank you once again. As the CEO of Professors for Life Incorporated, I appreciate you taking the time from your busy schedule to allow me to interview, and hopefully we'll be in conversation soon. And blessings, and God bless all that you do.
Thank you. God bless you.
We'll be talking soon. Thank you. Bye-bye now.